Hello and welcome to this first lecture on cost reduction in this course on operations and supply chain management. So the purpose of this section, we will help you learn about cost reduction for you to become an excellent operations and supply chain management professional. And beginning this lecture, we will talk about how to reduce the cost of products and services manufactured and sourced. We will start with their overall process and we will then look at in this lecture some of the steps, in subsequent lectures the remaining steps, right? Good. So question for you: how to reduce the cost of products and services manufactured or sourced, right from customer to suppliers, or the entire supply chain including your manufacturing operations or service manufacturing operations. Any thoughts? See, the way you need to do is to start with understanding the cost drivers. What drives the total cost and how to do that, we will talk about that. So first you need to understand what drives the cost. Is it your fixed overheads? Is it your labor? Is it your a particular raw material? So you need to understand what are the key cost drivers. Then you need to benchmark cost of those with your lowest cost competitors. So there would be people in the industry or any other place where the same product that you are understanding, same facility, is being run at lower cost. So you need to benchmark your cost with them specifically on those cost drivers that are key to you, right? Then you need to, from there you can identify opportunities. What are the places where you have opportunity to reduce your cost? Is it the labor? Is it the fixed overheads? Is it that particular material or is it something else? So identify opportunities. Then you need to evaluate the opportunities. This identification of opportunity would generate a lot of opportunities, right? And then you need to evaluate which ones to go for. Where do you have capabilities? Kind of analysis. Then you need to formulate a cost reduction plan around these opportunities. How can you make a cost reduction plan specifically? What goal do you have? What strategies would you have? What projects would you have that will help you evaluate these opportunities? And then you need to resource these projects, put people in charge, man, money, materials, resource, and then monitor and see whether these things get done there. Now, having done all that, you will have certain cost reduction plans, right? So the question is how do you know whether that cost reduction plan is good enough? So you review the cost reduction projections based on those plans that you have versus your goals. And if your projections are lower than goals, or if your confidence in achieving those your cost reduction plans is lower than what you like, then you go back and go to identify more opportunities. And that can give you a robust cost reduction plan of reducing the cost of your products and services manufactured or sourced. So let's understand, how can you understand the cost drivers, right? So let's figure out how to understand the cost drivers. What do you think? How to understand the cost drivers? See, the cost drivers begin by looking at the various elements of the cost. Typically, the cost drivers in general are one, raw materials. Every product other than services. Services also use sometime materials. Raw materials is one way. Now, in raw material, there are three components. One, the amount used. How much is the amount used of raw materials in your final product? The rate, the price of the materials that is used, and in the in the manufacturing process or in the process of creating that product and service, what kind of wastages are you incurring? There are bound to be some wastages, right? So these are the three cost drivers that you could look at. The second cost driver would be the packaging material, and there again you would have these three things: usage, rate, and wastages that would determine your cost, right? Then you look at variable overheads. Now, what are variable overheads? These are your costs that change other than packing and raw materials, that change with the amount of production that you have. And what could these be? This is labor, definitely. More the production, more labor you consume, more power you consume, and there are more other consumables that you use. So these are other cost drivers. Then you have fixed overheads. Then there are costs that are fixed irrespective of the volume of production produced. And what are some of these? Like depreciation. You have machines, so you need to depreciate them for future provision of buying new machines. Then the rent of the facility, the cost of management. The cost of management is one normally a big cost driver in big companies for that matter. So that's how you understand what are the cost drivers. Now, is that all? Not really. So, but how to determine key cost driver? Fine, I understand. All these are the cost drivers, but how do I determine what are the key drivers of the cost? So, what you do there is you do what is called a Pareto analysis. You do a Pareto analysis of your total spend, including raw packaging, variable overheads, and fixed overheads in absolute amount. So if you have a facility, let's say a manufacturing facility like I used to have balloon manufacturing of Johnson and Johnson, where you used to we used to make all the baby products plus napkins, etc. So there, what we would do is say, hey, I'll ask finance, say, hey, tell me what is the last year's actual all included cost, right? And I would ask them to put these costs at a descending order, the highest amount first, the second amount, and obviously it will be in certain buckets. You can't go very, very fine line, but certain categories of this, and the categories will be based on what we saw here: raw materials, packing materials, fixed overheads, rent, labor, etc., etc. So you look at in raw materials, you could look at the variety of raw materials you have, A-class materials, and you map the values out of all these components of the spend of last year actual in a descending order, in which you put the value and also you keep accumulating on the right hand side the percentage of the cost, and you put 80% as a cutoff point. Anything, all the items that are above 80% are your key cost driver, because rest are contributing 80%. So using the 80-20 rule, that 20% of items will contribute to 80% of your cost, you find out the key cost drivers. Get an idea? Wonderful. So, having determined the cost drivers and the key cost drivers, well, you need to do cost benchmarking, right? So, how do you do cost benchmarking? Let's look at how to do cost benchmarking. So, what you do is you define anything particular. Let's say you have a product, napkin, right, that you want to reduce the cost of. So, you say, okay, I'm going to do the cost benchmarking for this stay-free napkin. Then you say, okay, I need to define what is it that I want to collect, right? I would have figured out my cost key drivers for that napkin, and then I would define uh, I need to collect these information: the cost of the pulp that is used there, cost of cover that is used here, the depreciation, the labor or whatever is used. And I also define who will I'm going to compare. So I define this whole process of benchmarking. Then I get into data collection. Now, data collection is not easy because cost is a very closely guarded secret. So you need to find variety of ways by which you find cost, like interviewing their people, reverse engineering, collecting the product, estimating the product cost with the help of R&D, etc., etc. Then you compare your cost with the cost of the competitor and analyze where is your cost higher and where are the opportunities, and then you determine action of what should you do to make your cost competitive, and then you repeat the whole process for other products or the same products with next year. And this leads to how to identify opportunities. Let's take a look at that. So this is an example. After the benchmark analysis, life becomes relatively easy. Then you discover if your cost is 100 and your competitor's cost, let's say heavy haul A and heavy haul B are the two products. Your cost is at 100, then you see versus the lower cost item, heavy haul B, what are the points of differences? What are contributing to that lower cost? And that becomes your opportunity, isn't it? So what's next? Having looked at how to identify opportunity, the next one we will talk about how to evaluate these opportunities so that you can formulate a substantial cost reduction plan that can help you meet your goals, right? So thank you so much for watching this first cost reduction lecture in this course on operations and supply chain management. I hope you are continuing to learn new things, continuing to enjoy, and I do look forward to see you again in the next lecture. Please feel free to message me if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer a question. And also download the PDF file to take a look at anything that you need to.